Ladies and gentlemen, this is part 3 in a series we're doing here at the channel called The Life and Lore of Pelinal Whitestrake. Part 1 was an introduction to the character, while part 2 focused on what it means for him having the Amulet of Kings in place of his heart. And here in part 3, we're going to talk about his duel with Umaril the Unfeathered. Now, the whole point of this series is to break down a specific aspect of Elder Scrolls lore, in this case Pelinal Whitestrake, and to segment it off into shorter videos so that you don't have to watch this like 45-minute, even 2-hour long video on Elder Scrolls lore. I want to make these videos as digestible as possible. So if you're enjoying how this content is turning out, then hit the like button down below. And if there's a specific character that you'd like to learn more about, then just leave a comment down below and I'll add them to the list. So with all that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for giving me your time, and I appreciate each and every one of you. As was the case for the previous Pelinal Whitestrake videos in this series, I am not following a script for this video. So you might hear me fumble over my words a little. I might go on some tangents here and there, but we're going to keep it real and we're going to rock with it. Now, in the previous videos, we talked about just kind of like the general idea of who Pelinal was as a character. And in the second video in the series, we specifically focused on what it meant for him to have the Amulet of Kings as his heart. Now, in this video, we are going to focus on his duel with Umaril the Unfeathered. Now, if you don't know who Umaril the Unfeathered is, that's okay. You don't necessarily have to, but I will give you kind of like a brief summary of who he was. So basically, the long and short of it is that Umaril the Unfeathered was an Ayleid sorcerer king capable of some pretty impressive magic. He himself was a very renowned warrior and a great leader within the Ayleid people's culture. I would love to do a dedicated video to the Ayleid people and exactly what they were like, but to keep myself from going on this like 20-minute tangent, Umaril the Unfeathered is not somebody to be taken lightly. In the year 243 of the First Era, toward the end of the war, rebellion forces marched back south and east. When they came close to the White Gold Tower, the demigod half-elf Umaril the Unfeathered challenged Pelinal to a duel. At her war council, the Alessian armies and all of the Nords grew anxious and fearful of the foresight of storming the White Gold Tower and facing Umaril and his soldiers. Because of their hesitation, Alessia herself counseled delay. Their hesitation made Pelinal furious and made names of his own allies, calling them cowards. He proceeded to insult Umaril in his anger. Outraged and acting on instinct rather than thought, he went alone to confront Umaril. Upon his arrival in the city, Umaril revealed that he had tricked the Crusader and weakened Pelinal by sending in soldiers who he had been saving for this exact moment, knowing that they would be killed easily by the Crusader. After his battle with Umaril's servants, Pelinal became surrounded by the last Ayleid sorcerer kings and their minions, who were probably summoned Aurorans and other Daedra. Bleeding in the battle for the first time, Pelinal smashed the floor with his weapon in rage, sending pieces of rock flying in all directions. His attackers withdrew in fear of their opponent. Pelinal screamed for Umaril to reveal himself and face the Crusader in combat. It was only after Whitestrake was weakened and badly wounded that Umaril came down to fight him. Both fighters were equally matched, and they injured each other severely. Ultimately, Pelinal broke off the Ayleid king's wings, finally killing him and ending the Ayleid enslavement of humans. As his enemies died, Whitestrake yet laughed about the ugliness of Umaril's angel-shaped helmet, and recklessly insulted the ancestry of the High Elf and anyone else who descended from the old Elnafe. Enraged by his remarks about their heritage, the Sorcerer Kings returned and overwhelmed the weakened Crusader, killing him. So, what exactly just happened? Did Pelinal Whitestrake really die? Well, yes, but also no, and we'll get to the no a little bit later. For now, though, let's do a little bit of a recap so that we're on the same page as to what just happened. Now, at this point in Pelinal's journey, he has already built up a name for himself by going across the countryside of Tamriel, slaying all of the Ayleid figureheads that he possibly can. He didn't just go after their generals, he also went after their artisans and their musicians and their political figureheads. Anything that he could do to decimate Ayleid culture, he was ready to do it. However, Pelinal had one massive weakness. For all of the power and all of the might that Pelinal had, he was subject to his anger taking control over him. And that is exactly what we see at this point in his story. So all this time that Pelinal's going around slaughtering the Ayleid kings and destroying their kingdom that they've spent so much time building up, all of this time, Umaril the Unfeathered is kind of watching, right? He's observing what's going on. He is concocting a plan. He's strategizing of how to deal with Pelinal Whitestrake, who at this point is just a total menace, right? A total thorn in his side. Now, Umaril, after observing Pelinal's habits and his tactics for quite some time, figures out how to get through to him. And that's exactly why he publicly declares that challenge, and he sort of instigates. He creates a situation that would target Pelinal's weaknesses, which are his pride and his anger. Now, not so surprisingly, it worked out perfectly. Alessia and her rebellion forces were terrified at this entire situation of Umaril targeting Pelinal Whitestrake like that, because Pelinal is like the rebellion's champion. You know, he is really all that they have, which is not to say that they would not have been successful without him, but it definitely would not have gone the way it did without Pelinal. So the Alessian forces and the Nords from the north, they put together this council and they try to meet and figure out how they want to handle this situation. But all of the talking and all of the waiting around, that's not what Pelinal does. So that just drives him crazy, right? He's ready to just go fight. That is like what he lives for. That's his purpose. And so the whole idea of twiddling their thumbs and seeking counsel on what to do, that just infuriated him. And like we talked about in the last video about his madnesses, he basically goes into another one here. And then he marches forth to Umaril to confront him head on, only to then go into a trap. Now, it was quite a clever trap, although you may think that it was kind of dirty, kind of cowardly, but so is the way of war sometimes. You gotta play to win. Now, Umaril, he knows that Pelinal eventually is going to take the bait. And so he sets up this circumstances where Pelinal has to fight through a number of combatants before being able to actually fight Umaril himself. Once Pelinal actually does that, by the time Pelinal gets to Umaril, he's able to go toe-to-toe with him. And they're on a much more level playing field than they would have been otherwise. However, even with these extra steps put in place by Umaril, he still was not able to best Pelinal Whitestrake, which is extraordinary. It's incredible that Pelinal was able to be able to go headfirst into a trap and almost come out the other side totally fine. But not so surprisingly, even though Pelinal did win the encounter with Umaril the Unfeathered, his madness and his rage and his ego and pride, all of that got in the way, and it ended up being his downfall, as the Ayleid kings that saw Umaril fall and fled in terror, they came back because of Pelinal's mockery, because of his insults. And united, all of them together, were able to defeat the now weakened Pelinal Whitestrake. But wait, did Pelinal Whitestrake actually die? Tune in to the next episode of The Life and Lore of Pelinal Whitestrake to find out. Alright everybody, that's going to wrap up for this video. I have been the Filthy Casual, and thank you guys so much for giving me the time out of your day to listen to me talk about Elder Scrolls lore. I love Elder Scrolls lore, and I love making these videos so that we as a community can come together and talk about the games that we love. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, and if you like Elder Scrolls lore, then subscribe because there's more on the way.